Hi guys, and welcome to another video from Stupid is the Norm, the channel where we demonstrate how to become a millionaire in 10 years on minimum wage. And in this episode I'm going to explain to you what sort of attributes you should be looking for in your property source. And please watch right till the end, because there are 2 bonus attributes to look for, because they all say that, the YouTube gurus, don't they? So where do we start? Property sources, you get them all over the internet, don't you? All sorts of ages and experiences, but how do you know which one's the best? Well, I think the best way I can describe to you the sort of attributes you're looking for is to explain to you how it is that I came across my property source on Matt. If you want to use them, that's fine. I'll leave his details below. If you don't want to use them, that's equally fine. You don't have to tell him, should you choose to use them, that I referred you, because I don't get a fee. So you mention my name or not, it's up to you. So anyway, how did I meet Matt? Matt had paid for a little thumbnail presentation, a video to put on his website, and it was done by a guy called Mike Winnett. Now Mike Winnett, check him out on YouTube, by the way, and a big thank you to Mike. Mike gave me my first 1,000 subscribers because I was the first one on his show, Taxi Driver Becoming a Millionaire sort of thing. So anyway, I'd seen this video, and Matt was in, it was kind of like an elevator pitch, and he was describing the sort of things that he would do, he can do for people who are looking to buy properties. And what I loved about it was dead honest. There was no bullshit about, you know, buy properties with no money down, rent to rent, how to make money without owning the properties, and all this crap that you see all over the internet. He says, look, you're going to need 20 grand to get started, minimum 20 grand, which was upfront fine. I didn't have 20 grand by the way, and I explained to him. So you're going to need 20 grand. Are there nightmare tenants? Yes. If you're in the game for long enough and buy enough property, you're going to come across at least one of them. So you have to be prepared for that. But there are ways of mitigating that to make sure that it doesn't happen. If it does happen, how to protect yourself. So I loved what he said, and I sent him an email that says, here's my position. I'm looking to buy a property. I hadn't bought a property at that stage. I'm looking to buy a property. I haven't got enough money yet, but I'm going to be there or thereabouts in about 6 months' time. And he rang me back in about 24 hours and he says, I understand your position. Why don't you come down to where I live, where my properties are, and I'll show you some properties, sort of examples of what we can do. And then when you're ready, when the time is right, we can get something in place for you. So that's what I did. Because you can't buy properties in my area and rent them out for great sums or great profits, because it's just too expensive here. So I can't buy where I live. So I drove to Matt's place. He lives in a place on Teesside, Stockton, and it's about 40 miles away. So I drove down there, met Matt, lovely guy, comes across as a lovely guy, ex-British Airways pilot, used to fly Airbuses for Cathay Pacific and British Airways and what have you. Not that that means a thing, because I've worked at airports before. I know there are some arseholes amongst the airline pilot fraternity, but he was a lovely guy. And also, if you're an airline pilot, you've got to have something about you. But he's a nice guy, and I had a walk around. He showed me some properties. He had the keys, because he's a letting agent as well. And he said, look, this is the sort of thing that I can buy for you. And he showed me, I think it was 3 or 4 properties. We don't buy stuff that needs a big refurb. Some of it needs a light refurb. Here's what it'll rent for. Here's what it'll cost you. And this is the sort of thing we can supply with. And as we were walking, I was asking him lots of questions, of course. Things like, you know, how long you've been in the game, and he'd been in for over 10 years. How many properties do you own? He owned about close to £3 million of the properties himself, but he'd sourced X amount of million for other people. I said to him, and this is what property sources will do, by the way, and estate agents will do if you choose to buy through an estate agent, they'll keep the best ones for themselves. Why not? That's what you would do, wouldn't you? So I asked him, and I says, I understand that you'll come across lots of properties, and I won't get the best ones because you get the best ones. And he was a little quiet for a couple of seconds and said, yeah. He says, there is an element of cherry picking involved, and I do keep the best ones for myself. But, he says, sometimes I don't have the cash to buy them. Sometimes I'm not in a position because I'm trying to get cash out of one property and the cash flow is a bit tight, in which case I pass them on. But there's another big but here. Whilst I may get the best ones for myself, would you be happy if you had property in the top 5% of Teesside? And without thinking, I said, yeah, of course it will. Top 5%, great stuff. It's better than the crap you see on Rightmove. Excuse me. So he said, well, that's what I can provide you. I'll provide you with discounts, typically £10,000 below, not massively below, but about typically £10,000. Only find you properties that will rent all day long and make you about £400 a month after taking off fees and and your mortgage payments, which is right up my street because that's the sort of thing I was looking for. Then I asked him, where do you find your properties? Thinking that if I knew where he got them from, I might be able to get them for myself. Not true. But I did ask him the question. He says, I've been here for a long time, particularly in this area. I specialize in this area. And I know all the estate agents, and all the estate agents not only know me, but they trust me as well. So when I walk in there, they know I've got cash in my hand, which is unlike what would normally happen if you were to walk in an estate agent, because you walk in there thinking, I'm a cash buyer, I can move pretty quickly, therefore I expect a big discount. The amount of people who walk into a estate agent's office and say that are tenfold every week. You think you're special, it happens all the time, and they're not interested. But Matt gets them because they trust Matt. They don't want to mess around. If they have a product that comes on that they'll find difficult to sell on Rightmove, or by putting a stick outside the house, then they'll go to Matt and say, look, I've got an interesting one here for you, Matt. There's a tenant in there right now. He's been in there for 7 years, pays every week £110 a week, never missed a payment. The landlord wants to get rid of it. He's willing to sell it at a discount, but it has got a tenant in it. It doesn't have a tenancy agreement, but you can put one in place, of course. It's the sort of thing you know somebody who will buy it. He says, I've got just the guy. And that's how I came across my third property. That was the property I have. And that tenant wants to live in there for the rest of his life. And I've had that property, I think, for 9 months now. He's never missed a payment. So it's one of those, a judgment. I'm probably getting a little less than what I wanted for it, but you know, it's guaranteed income with a tenant who is no trouble whatsoever. So that's important. You need to get a great network of people who are ringing them all the time and saying, this is what I've got. Is it something you like? It isn't? Okay. What about this? That sort of thing. So network is important. Then I asked him, are you compliant? And he kind of rolled his eyes in his sockets and he says, yeah, I am actually. He says, but it means nothing. You know, all you've got to do is register with the ombudsman, pay a fee to the ICO, a few of other little bits. It's just a ticky box exercise. In no way does being compliant actually ask you the question, how many properties do you have and manage, and how long you've been in the game, and what sort of experience you have. It's just a ticky box exercise. So don't get hung up if you do find a property sourcer and he's not compliant just because he objects to jumping through the hoops that aren't really necessary. So that's how I found Matt 3 or 4 years ago now. And that's why we stay together, because he's dead honest and he does what he says he's going to do. So from that experience, let me make a list of things that you should have for ticky boxes to work out your sourcer and whether they are good at what they do. First thing we'll do, have a chat with them about their track record. How many properties do they have? How many years have they been in the game? It might be that they've just paid $9,997 for a course where somebody's hoodwinked them into thinking that they can get in a property for absolutely nothing. They spent the last 10 grand of the course, but not to worry. They've told them you can become a property sourcer, and they'll go out and find properties. And what they're doing is actually working from their bedroom and scouring Rightmove where you won't find the properties that will fit your marketplace anyway. Next thing, when you've had a chat with them, do they sound honest? You know, are they promising in the world, we can get this for no money down, you don't have to buy it, you can rent it and then rent it out to someone else, you know, all that crap. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Ask them what sort of areas they're looking. You want to find them area specific. If they're saying they can find properties all over the country for you, then that's going to be, there should be an alarm bell ringing. You don't want to do that. That means they're scouring YouTube all over the country, and that's not what you want. You want someone who's an expert in that area. Next thing, find out about their network. Who is their network? Where is their network? Are they working with estate agents? Are they working with landlords? How long have they been in the area? How many properties are they finding? That sort of thing. If they've got a great network, they're probably area specific, which means they know a lot about an area. One of the things that Matt told me was, he says, you've got to be so careful where you're buying stuff. He says, this stuff here, and he pointed and showed me a property. He says, I can rent all day long. On the same street, 500 yards away, if they give you a property for nothing, you don't want to take it. That's what area specific means. And if it's area specific, you won't have any problem showing you the sort of properties A, he's sold in the past, or B, that he has in his books now. So ask him to go and look at some properties or give you some examples of the sort of thing he's done in the past. As Matt says, do you have to be compliant? It's up to you. It wouldn't bother me whether Matt was compliant or not. As Matt said, it's just a ticky box exercise anyway, so does it really matter? So that's it. Oh, bonus. What? Right, oh yeah, bonus. Bonus number one. It's better if your sourcer is a letting agent, as well as having and finding your properties for you. And that's because he understands the game. He knows, because he's got a portfolio of his own, because he's steeped in property, not just the buying side but the letting side as well. He will look after you. He knows exactly how to find the right tenants. He knows exactly how to vet them to the sort of properties you're looking for, not to take any bullshit from the tenants, as some of them will try it on and want new this and new that and a new fence. Whatever, because he's involved in the game, he doesn't take any bullshit from tenants. He knows exactly what the rules are, and he does what he says in the tin. The alternative is people go to their estate agent quite often and they'll buy a property themselves without using a sourcer. They don't know much about property, so they'll go and give it to an estate agent. And the estate agent might tell you all the nice things. Yes, we'll find a tenant for it, no problem. You will have a designated point of call where somebody will work specifically for you and they will find the tenant for you. But they'll BS it all up. But in reality, it's just Karen who's sitting on the front desk working part-time on minimum wage, and she knows not the first thing about letting properties, but she's your designated point of call. So you need, if possible, to make sure your sourcer is also involved in letting as well. The second bonus is, and beware of this, I spoke about our guy who's paid $9,997 to be on our course somewhere being ripped off and told me he could get properties for no money, and realizes now he has to source properties to get some money for himself to invest in property. But he was on the course with 10 other people, and how often it works is one of these guys will find a property in Southampton and can't shift it, so he'll ring his mate who was on the course who was in Birmingham, but he doesn't know anybody, but he rings his guy in Newcastle and says, I've got a guy here who's got a property in Southampton, does your boy want it? And every time you have put a chain link in the place, there's an extra £1,000 stuck on the finder's fee. So you need to be careful and ask them, where are you in the chain? Are you direct to vendor? Is the person who's selling the property liaising directly with you? If so, that's perfect. That's what you're looking for. So there it is, guys. That's the sort of things you should be looking for to find your own property sourcer. If you find all that a bit of a nightmare to get through, I'll leave Matt's details at the bottom. As I said, you don't have to tell him I passed you one. I don't get a fee for this anyway. In the meantime, don't be stupid and don't be normal.